Morning. Good morning. Welcome. You are here today, or if you're watching the video later, you are equally welcome. So, we're going to talk about today, you guys. Welcome to all my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. So, I don't actually have a topic today. So, if you guys don't have any questions, we'll just do an hour of meditation, which is always a good thing. Okay. Just adjusting my screen here a little bit so it's a bit easier for me to see everything. Okay. All right. So just begin our meditation then. So we're going to start by just bringing the mind and body together. And just bring the mind into a state of awareness in the present moment. Notice the sensations of your body sitting on the chair or sitting on the floor, your bed, or wherever you're sitting. Insanda samkara shide sam pimakara jibandi shuna susun natatinga saso katyana manam no so homi chiki kipo jane tusum sange quinking wuni transam chabanu sundu zaipa tsawena me shapa so So as always, we want to begin with our bodhicitta motivation. So bodhicitta, if you don't already know, is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means awakened or enlightened, and chitta means the mind and heart together. So bodhicitta is enlightened mind heart in brief. And what that means, or the definition of that, is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So where does that wish arise from? And where does that wish arise? Um, so that comes from compassion. It's not synonymous with compassion, although sometimes people have that misunderstanding, but it begins with compassion. So, what is compassion? Compassion is the wish that others be free from suffering. So, we have this wish that someone be free of suffering when we see them suffering, right? But how are we going to help them be free of suffering if we don't have the tools for that, let's say? So, enlightenment gives us the tools. An incredible amount of skill and power comes with that, and we can benefit countless sentient beings by attaining enlightenment. So, that's the idea behind bodhicitta, that we are doing our best to do our practice, study, contemplation, meditation, in order to attain this state so we can help all beings be free from suffering. So if you could take a moment to generate that motivation, and if that sounds like a bit too much, that's okay. At least just think, may this time we spend this together this morning benefit not only myself, but others as well. So let's take a moment to generate that motivation. Okay, so it looks like we do have a question, which is great. Hi, Luba. Morning. Hey, Melina. Hey. Hi, Tess and Lucy. Um, let's see the question. How do you strike a balance between realizing impermanence and not getting depressed about it, finding joy in impermanence? Okay, good. So, impermanence is actually one of the most important practices. The contemplation of impermanence, I should say, is actually one of the most important practices in Buddhism. The Buddha called it the king of all practices. So you can tell there that it's really important. Okay. Um, the there are several aspects to contemplating impermanence, and so I'll go through those, and then we'll get closer to the heart of this question. So, in the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path, which leads to the cessation. Okay. First of all, we always have to say suffering is not exactly a perfect translation of the word dukkha. Dukkha is kind of dissatisfaction, unsatisfactoriness, right? We never really find satisfaction in anything. But it's a very actually multifaceted concept, which I'm not going to go into because that's not the topic for today. You can look at previous videos where I do discuss the Four Noble Truths, and you can get more detail there. So, the truth of suffering um, has uh, three aspects to it, I think. So, there's yes, three types of suffering. There's the suffering of suffering, which is what we normally say, right? What we normally as English speakers think of when we use the word suffering. So old age, sickness, loss, grief, physical pain, this kind of thing. Okay, so that's the first one, easy to understand. The second one is the suffering of change. Okay. And this has, I believe, two aspects to it. So change being impermanence, right? Suffering of impermanence. The first is that anything that we enjoy, anything that we find pleasurable, never lasts because of the truth of impermanence, right? Everything is impermanent. So, now we're in spring. Okay, maybe somebody really likes winter. They really like um, skiing and things like that, ice skating and skiing and building snow people and all this kind of thing, right? And they're sad to see winter go. Some people prefer summer and they're bored with spring and they just want summer so they can, they like to be very hot, whatever, right? Or you like to watch the sunset or the sunrise, that is impermanent, that changes. Okay. So everything that we enjoy, relationships, food, youth, the seasons, whatever, it changes, it goes away. Okay. That's the first one. The second is that anything that we enjoy, if we do it long enough, turns into suffering. So I'm well aware of what this sounds like, that it sounds very negative and pessimistic, and so forth. Yeah. So it isn't though, but just hear me out. Okay. So anything that we enjoy, if we do it long enough, turns into suffering. So example I usually use is like if you really like to take a bath and you make it a very special event, right? You have your bath bomb and your candles and your, woo-woo music and your book or your glass of wine and, whatever, right? Eventually, no matter how much you enjoy taking a bath, eventually you want to get out of there. It turns into suffering. Yeah, your back starts to hurt or the water gets cold or you're just bored sitting there or whatever it is. Eventually you want to get out of there. Every time I rarely take baths because of it uses so much water and I try to conserve water. um, but once in a while I do take a bath, and usually it doesn't last very long before I'm saying like, what am I doing in here? This is crazy. I don't want to be in here. So that kind of thing. Or eating or drinking, right? Eventually turns into suffering. Even just drinking water, right? If you drink too much water, you can actually die from that. So why is the Buddha talking about these things? It's not to depress us, but it's to show us that looking outside for happiness, it's impossible. Looking outside our own mind for lasting happiness. Lasting is the operative word here. Yeah. So you can have definitely temporary happiness from, I don't know, eating a donut or having sex or watching TV or whatever it is. So certainly at you know, temporary happiness is there, but lasting happiness is not there. And the problem is that we continuously, over lifetimes upon lifetimes, have been looking in the wrong place for happiness, for lasting happiness. And we keep thinking, despite all the evidence to the contrary, we keep thinking that we can find happiness in things or outer circumstances. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to find happiness by getting a new house or getting a new car or a new computer or whatever. It's also, I'm going to find happiness by getting a new job or getting married or getting divorced or whatever it is, right? We're never going to find lasting happiness in those things. Why? Because those things are impermanent. That's why. Okay. So we need to work with the mind in order to find lasting happiness. It's not possible outside of the mind. Okay. Um, um, so that's the point of, contemplating impermanence. Um, we are we are contemplating impermanence to reduce suffering, not to increase suffering. Okay. Everything, it's a really important point. There's one thing I can say for sure applies to each and every teaching, each and every practice in Buddhism is aimed at removing suffering for oneself and others. Every single teaching from the Four Noble Truths through Dzogchen has that as the basis. Okay. So if contemplating suffering created I'm sorry, if contemplating impermanence created suffering, Buddha would not have suggested we do that. Actually, the contemplation of impermanence helps to remove suffering, right? Because if we are aware of impermanence, if we realized impermanence, then our thinking is in line with the truth. Our thinking is in line with reality. At the moment, we're always in conflict with reality, right? We have a relationship and we expect it to last forever. It's not going to last forever. Even the most blissful marriage between two people won't last forever. One is going to die before the other, or they're both going to die on the same day, whatever. You know, it's not going to bring lasting happiness. It is impermanent by nature, right? So if we can be free of this grasping onto this desire that things don't change, right? It's that grasping that causes us to suffer because it's not in line with reality. You know, we want spring to last forever. Is spring going to last forever? No, of course not. Is the sunset going to last forever? No. Is a relationship going to last forever? No. Is youth going to last forever? No. Are we going to last forever? No. Okay. So if we go through life expecting the impossible, of course we're going to suffer. You see what I mean? Of course we're going to suffer. So, um, you know, but impermanence, although the Buddha brings it up in this context of the Four Noble Truths and in context of the first truth, the truth of suffering, impermanence also means that if we're poor now, we can be rich later, or at least have enough money later. If we are ignorant now about a topic, we can study it and we can become, knowledgeable about that topic. If we don't have any friends now, we can find friends. You see what I mean? So there's also this positive aspect to impermanence. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a great Vietnamese, who was a great Vietnamese master. I recommend any of his books. They're very good. Let me just write his name in the chat because it's a little bit difficult. H-I. I'm not even sure about the H's, but if you Google that, you'll come up on the right spelling of Thich Nhat Hanh. He's the Vietnamese master, but he talks in one of his books about impermanence, and he says, nothing can exist without impermanence. You know, if we have a baby, there's like that baby can't grow up without impermanence. They have to move from baby to toddler to small child to teen, etc. Right? There's no growth whatsoever without impermanence. There's no growth of a tree. There's no growth of a human being. There's no emotional growth, mental growth without impermanence. So impermanence isn't an entirely negative thing, okay? And the the advantage of contemplating it is that our thinking becomes more in line with reality, and we therefore become more free, right? um I often give this example of like being in a very beautiful place. It was when I was living on the east side. There's a very nice park there called Shaker Lakes, and there's this area there's a like right next to the water, and there's a huge tree there, and it's kind of hidden from the path and people walking by and stuff. And I would sit there before class, just to practice. And it was like this perfect early fall day, you know, when the sky is very blue and the clouds are puffy, and all the leaves are still there, but they're kind of late, like maybe it was September. And as I'm sitting there, there's this flock of geese that just come sort of lapping on the water and kind of just fly away all at once. And it was just so beautiful and so kind of perfect. It was like 70 degrees and all that. And I just felt myself, kind of grasping after this and just thinking, oh no, like winter's around the corner, and I really don't like winter. So winter's around the corner, and like I wish I could just freeze this day and just keep it, always. And I felt myself kind of tightening up, that grasping is suffering itself. We should look at ourselves, yeah, when we feel we're grasping towards something. Yeah. And I felt this like, tightening in my heart. And then I remembered the teaching, and I was like, this is just the way of things, this is just how things are, just let go, just enjoy what is happening right now. And it was so far more pleasurable to have that attitude towards what I was experiencing versus, oh, I want it to last forever. Oh, winter's coming. Oh, why doesn't this last forever? Just relax, man. You know, groovy. Just relax. It's okay. You know, this is the way of the world. So you're in the present moment. You're not bringing the past into the present moment. You're not dragging the future into the present moment. You're just in the present moment. This is how things are. It's beautiful now, you know? Then if something breaks, you're not so worried about it, you're not so upset about it because you understand everything is impermanent, you know. Impermanence as a concept is not difficult at all to understand. You don't have to have a degree in quantum physics to understand the notion of impermanence. That's not the hard part. The hard part is putting our intellectual understanding into practice, to like really digest that intellectual understanding so that we have a clear notion, so that we have a mindset that is relaxed, open, in the present moment, understanding reality. Then we are moving through life with so much more ease than moving through life with this kind of fantasy of um, everything should be permanent, right? So that's how we need to think of it. If we are in a very pleasurable situation, whatever that may be for us, um, notice if you're grasping at that. Notice if you feel that tension in your heart, and just relax and just be, yeah, of course, this is impermanent. I'm just going to really enjoy it right now. Parents suffer from this a lot, as their kids are growing up, right? When the child stops breastfeeding, for example, that can be really difficult for the mom. She realizes, oh, the separation has begun, right? Or when the child goes off to school, these kind of changes can be really hard for a parent, especially if they are clinging to the notion of impermanence. Yeah. Conversely, when we are suffering, when we're physically sick, or when we are suffering with mental illness of any type, or when our life is just challenging at the moment, what have you, if we can think about impermanence, then we can also relax. It's okay. This is not going to last forever. This will change. I know a lot of times when we're sick or we're suffering, we tend to sort of, kind of close down, right? And become very isolated, either physically or mentally or both. And that increases that kind of instinctive feeling we have that we're the only one suffering, right? So we need to think about that, and just think, no, I'm not the only one suffering, right? And we can do practice like Tonglen, say, okay, I'm gonna take on the suffering of others. I'm gonna offer them my own happiness, and this kind of has a natural effect of relaxing us and opening up, like helping us realize the connection that we actually have with all beings, right? And that helps to lessen the suffering actually. So these are some ways that we can think about suffering, think about impermanence, like contemplate impermanence, and try to integrate this teaching of impermanence and not just keep it, in our head. And somebody said something here. Alina says hard part is also getting over our denial and attachment to the unconscious fantasy of permanence. Yes, yes. So that's why just like simple things like just noticing impermanence and sort of marking it in our mind um, on a daily basis really helps. Yeah. For example, I just took a sip of water, so now my glass is a little more empty. That's impermanence. That water isn't there. The feeling that I had of thirst is impermanence, which I solved by drinking some water, right? We're going more towards, we're moving towards the end of the day. We're moving more into spring, just to notice these little things. It might sound dumb somehow or too simple somehow, but it isn't. It's very profound, because we have to think about, often in the teachings, they talk about, they pair impermanence with death. They say impermanence and death, or death and impermanence, right? Why? Because, pardon me, death is one of the main sufferings that we experience as human beings, right? Our own death it can be really hard to face for people, very difficult to handle at the moment. Certainly, the death of our loved ones is also something really difficult, and yet, and it is the only thing that is certain, right? So the Tibetans say, like, death is certain, at the time of death is uncertain, right? Everyone is going to die, but we don't think about that, especially ourselves. Sometimes we can catch ourselves thinking, oh, everyone else is going to die, but not me. I'm here forever. So we got to make sure that we don't have that thinking and won't be really shocked when the moment comes that we do die, right? So the contemplation of impermanence can help us so, so much in handling the death of our friends and loved ones, and also in handling our own death. And again, this is something that I experienced myself. I was practicing probably I don't know, around 15 years when my dad passed away. And, he was fortunate and we were fortunate in that he had a lot of time to prepare for that because he had prostate cancer, which is, very slow moving. And so it was quite a long time between his diagnosis and his death. Um, but even so, uh, my family was like shocked when, there was nothing more that the doctors could do for him, and we ended up calling hospice. Like, how are you shocked? How are you shocked by that? And we've had 10 plus years to get used to this idea that this guy had cancer, you know, um, because deeply we don't believe it. Deeply, we're not used to this idea of death and impermanence. And I was very surprised, not by the fact that he was dying, but by the fact that I was not surprised. And I was not surprised because of the 15 years of practice and study I had behind me. And I didn't realize that it would have that effect, actually. And like, I'm not a great practitioner by any stretch of the imagination, but just exposure to the teachings and saying the four mind changes every day. So the four mind changes, I did a video on that too. So if you want to know more about that, you can go back and look at that. But four mind changes are precious human life, which means, so these four mind changes are also called like the four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. And these are four things to contemplate to help you want to practice. So it's a very practical thing, and I find it a very kind of encouraging thing because it shows that, like, this is just human nature. Like, we don't want to practice, we sort of just want to ignore everything, whatever. But so the first is realizing you have a precious human life, and precious human life, in brief, just means a life that has all the causes and conditions necessary in order to encounter and practice the Dharma. Okay, so it's extremely difficult to get, it's extraordinarily rare, but you have that. So remember that. And the second is death and impermanence, that this life is not permanent, that this precious human life, the life itself is not permanent because we will eventually die. And also, like, at any point in our life, we can, for whatever reason, decide we're not interested in the Dharma anymore. So even if we are still alive physically, we've lost our precious human life because we're no longer interested in the Dharma. So even that is impermanent, right? And then death can occur at any time, and we, lose our life and we don't know what's next, so we better practice. Yeah. The third is law of cause and effect, otherwise known as karma. And the fourth is the suffering of cyclic existence. Okay. Um, what do I want to say about that? Right, right. So, you know, what I meant to say earlier was that death is certain, right? So we know all of us are going to die, even if we don't want to face it or we don't want to think about it. And it's like the one thing that most of us are not prepared for whatsoever. I don't know what we're thinking when we don't prepare for that. And I mean prepare in a practical sense, so-called practical sense, or let's say material sense, where we have our advance directives, where we have our will, where we've, did, if we're, especially if we're older, we've gotten rid of everything in our house that we don't actually need, so our kids don't have to deal with all of our junk. Where we perhaps pre-plan our funeral, getting ready for death. Yeah, and spiritually getting ready for death. And Buddhism is, full of practices like that. But one of the best ways that we can get ready for death is by contemplating impermanence. getting used to this idea that everything is impermanent, getting comfortable with uncertainty, right? This is part of the thing, like we want everything to be solid, we want everything to stay the same, we have this feeling of insecurity, right? So contemplating impermanence rem- helps to remove or reduce suffering in so many ways. Yeah. So that's my answer to your question. Now it's time to meditate. I'm gonna put you on hold for 1 second because I want to get a book. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is the book that I got, How to Meditate by Kathleen McDonald. Then I need another light. Okay. The chapter. Just really nice. So there's like different types of meditation, okay? There's the like kind of meditation that we're going to start out with is sort of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness of breathing. You can use any object, but the Buddha started with that because we always have our breath until we're dead, right? So mindfulness of breathing. Um, and then there's analytical meditation, which we're going to do after. In this case, it's analytical meditation on impermanence. And Kathleen McDonald has a lot of those kinds of meditation in her book. I think it has a different cover now. This is an older copy, but I recommend this book. I like it a lot. All right, so let's start with just mindfulness of breathing practice to start. So we want to adopt the posture of meditation. So it's called the 9-point posture of Arochana. So if you're sitting on the bed or on a cushion or on the floor, then you just want to cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you are sitting in a chair, then you want your feet flat on the floor because that's going to support this posture better. Okay. Otherwise, all the instructions are the same. You can put your hands, palms down on your legs or palms up like that, right hand on top of left in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that, which is kind of the most formal way. These are called meditation mudra. Very good. What's it on my screen? Okay. So the back is straight but relaxed. Back of the neck is also straight. So the chin's going to be tucked in just a little bit. So you don't want to be like this. You don't want to be like that. Just so that your back of the neck is also straight. Okay? Arms are relaxed. Shoulders should be back a little bit. So you just want to roll them back. Mouth is closed but relaxed. Tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. Eyes slightly downward. Looking in front of you, a few feet in front of you. The relaxed lowered gaze. If you find it difficult to meditate with your eyes open like this, that's okay. You can start with them closed and then open them until you become uncomfortable. Close them again, open them again, like that until you gradually get used to meditating with them open. So that's the posture. What are we doing in this meditation? We're bringing our awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. So you want to focus on that end of your nose and just take a moment first just to notice that sensation, okay? All right. So that's the focus of our concentration. However, it should be a very light touch. And we need to understand that we're not trying to stop thinking. We're not trying to block out everything else. All right. We're aware. We're aware of whatever sounds and sensations are happening, whatever our surroundings are. We're aware of that too. But we're mainly focused on the breath. All right. Really important to relax when we do this meditation. All right. Hachi Labdron, a great female practitioner, says best relaxation, best meditation. So body should be as relaxed as possible while maintaining the posture. Mind should be as relaxed as possible while maintaining awareness of the breath. When you get distracted, simply bring the mind back to the breath. Start again. Okay? So please begin that now. Now you can begin to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath for a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting acts as a tool to help us realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted because we'll have lost count, right? So if you lose count, no big deal. Just bring the mind back, start again at 1, okay? If you make it to 10 without getting distracted, don't let that distract you. Bring the mind back, start again at 1. So please begin that now. Right, now we're going to move into the analytical meditation on impermanence. First, turn your awareness to your body. Think of its many different parts: arms, legs, head, skin, blood, and bones, nerves, and muscles. Examine them one by one. Contemplate the nature of these things, their substance, texture, shape, and size. Be sensitive to the body at work, the movement that is occurring every moment, the ebb and flow of your breath, beating of your heart, the flow of your blood, and the energy of your nerve impulses. By the way, if you want to close your eyes during this practice, that's perfectly fine. Be aware of your body at the even more subtle level of its cellular structure, that it is entirely composed of living cells coming into existence, moving about, reproducing, dying, and disintegrating. At an even subtler level, all the parts of your body are made of molecules, atoms, and subatomic particles, and these are in constant motion. Try to really get a feeling for the change that is taking place every moment in your body. Now turn your attention to your mind. It too is composed of many parts: thoughts, perceptions, feelings, memories, and images, following one after the other ceaselessly. Spend a few minutes simply observing the ever-changing flow of experiences in your mind, like someone looking out of a window at a busy street, watching the cars and pedestrians pass by. Don't cling to anything that you see in your mind. Don't judge or make comments. Just observe and try to get a sense of the impermanent, ever-changing nature of your mind. After reflecting on the impermanence of your inner world, your own body and mind, extend your awareness to the outer world. Think about your immediate surroundings, the cushion or bed or chair you're sitting on, the floor, walls, windows, and ceilings of your room, furniture and other objects in the room. Consider that each of these, although appearing solid and static, is actually a mass of tiny particles whizzing around. Stay with that experience for a while. Then let your awareness travel further out, beyond the walls of your room. Think of other people. Their bodies and minds are also constantly changing, not staying the same for even one moment. The same is true of all living beings, animals, birds, insects. Think of all the inanimate objects in the world and in the universe: houses, buildings, roads, cars, trees, mountains, oceans, and rivers, the earth itself, the sun, moon, and stars. All of these things, being composed of atoms and other minute particles, are constantly changing every moment, every millisecond. Nothing stays the same without changing. Concentrate on this experience. So now just put that all together, your own body and all its parts, further made of parts, how your body's changing every millisecond, your own mind, how it too has many aspects and is changing all the time, your immediate environment, how every seemingly solid object is actually made of molecules and atoms moving around. It's changing millisecond by millisecond, decaying. And all the other living creatures in the world, people and animals, insects, birds, also changing second by second. All the inanimate objects in the world, the buildings, cars, etc., changing, changing, changing. Then the very planet itself, the earth itself, a constant state of motion, oceans churning, winds blowing, heating up, cooling down, getting older, millisecond by millisecond. And the very universe itself, the sun and the moon and the other planets, and the universe expanding, expanding, contracting. Conclude the meditation with the thought that it is unrealistic and self-defeating to cling to things as though they were permanent. Whatever is beautiful and pleasing will change and eventually disappear, so we can't expect it to give us lasting happiness. Also, whatever is unpleasant or disturbing won't last forever. It might even change for the better. So there's no need to be upset or rejected. Dedicate your positive energy and insight to the happiness of all living beings. Okay. So now we're going to do the closing prayers. We just do these in English and we're on YouTube. I don't know. I made a decision to do it that way. Go figure. Share. Okay. You can download these prayers in the the link for that is in the description box below. as is a bunch of other info. So please be sure to check out those links. So we start with the long life prayer for the Dalai Lama and then Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, and we go from there. Okay. In the celestial realm encircled by snow peaks, you are the source of every happiness and benefit. Tenzin Gyatso Avalokiteshvara himself, may your lotus feet remain firm for 100 eons. Om Swasti, in the vast expanse of your fearless wisdom, shine the 100,000 cooling light rays of your all-pervading great love, dispelling the anguish of beings in this degenerate age. O supreme jewel of space, region of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, remain with us continuously, we pray. Om Swasti, through dependent causation and the blessings of the infinity of long life deities, may Pema Wangya, prophesied magical emanation of the Toklin Sejal, be firm in body, speech, and mind like the king of the sounding drum, Amitabha, and may the great waves of his wishes for the teachings and beings spread out to their ultimate extent. We pray for the good health of the lamas. We pray for the precious lives to be long. We pray for their activities to spread and increase. May we be blessed never to part from them. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may it too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Now we say the mantra. Hold on a second, please. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Tishtatra Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Subokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sawasidi Me Prayatsa Sawakama Sutta Me Chitam Shriyam Kurum Ha 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 O Bhagavan so tata kata vajrama me munsa padri bawa maha samaya sattva. All right, so I have a couple of announcements to make, so please hang on for 1 second. Um, First of all, we have meditation every Saturday on YouTube, and the second Saturday of the month we are on YouTube and we are in person at the Lakewood Public Library. The best way to know what's happening with us is actually to sign up for the newsletter, or you can look at our calendar on our website. We keep that up to date as best as possible. Pardon me. We'll be having a new class coming up relatively soon, Women in Buddhism. And so look for the advertising and sign up and so forth for that. Um, what else? If you can make a donation, we really appreciate it. Of course, we understand that, sometimes it's difficult for people. That's fine. If that's you, don't worry about it. But if you can, throw us a few bucks, we'd be really grateful because we do have quite a lot of expenses. So that can be something quite helpful. As far as YouTube videos concerned, it's really helpful if you like the videos. Just do it right now. Just press that thumbs up button. It helps, it helps to drive some traffic here, which we want because we want to benefit the maximum amount of people possible. So if you like the video, that's helpful. If you comment, that's also really helpful. I understand that on a live you can't comment, but as soon as we stop, you can just make a comment. It doesn't have to be anything major, Oh, I like this video, or this was helpful, or whatever. Okay. we do have events, retreats, classes, and all that. As I said, the newsletter is the place to find those things. I was fostering a dog. Her name is Ginger. I think she's still at the animal shelter. It's the Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter in Valley View. She's very cute, as you can see. Um, Very sweet, affectionate puppy. She's put on weight. I mean, I had her to put weight on her for her spay. But she's a really great dog. Uh, Very cute and funny. So her name is Ginger Snap, and as I said, she's at Cuyahoga County Animals Shelter. So if she's not there, there's plenty of other dogs that are there that are sweet. And if you want a dog, that's the place. Or there's also the Cleveland Kennel uh, on Detroit. Or maybe you know somebody who's looking for a dog or you think could use a dog, that's the way to do it. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this morning or for watching the video later. It's always really good to have you. I hope you can join us for our other events. Let me see when our next Buddha Day is. Let's see. Oh, where am I? Yeah. So we have another Buddha Day, Buddha sadhana practice at 6 p.m. It's 6 to 6:30 next Friday, this coming Friday, May 1st. So I hope you can join us for that. All right. Thanks again and have a